theyeshiva.net.
We learned the Mishnah, Daf Yudalad Amud Aleph. Let's learn the Rashi on the Mishnah. Okay. How did the Mishnah begin? The Mishnah began to Reb Chanina, the Sgan HaKoyanim, the deputy of the Kohen Gadol, the right hand man of the Kohen Gadol. His name was Reb Chanina. The Rambam teaches us actually in his Pirush HaMishnayos that the relationship of the Sgan Kohen Gadol to the Kohen Gadol was like the relationship of the prime minister to the king. If the Kohen Gadol was like the king, the Sgan Kohen Gadol was his right-hand man. He was the prime minister. He was the one who executed what the Kohen Gadol wanted to get done. If there were instructions for the Kohanim, if there were messages for the Kohanim, if there was a problem to deal with, if the Kohen Gadol couldn't do his work, if he became disqualified, he was like the prime minister of the country in relation to the king. So Reb Chanina testified. What did he testify? That throughout all of the days of the Kohanim, they used to burn meat of karbanos that became tamei. They used to burn two types of meat that became tamei. One was less tamei, and one had a higher, more stringent degree of tumah, as Rashi will explain. Miyameim shel kayana. How does this come into Pesachim? Mishum Seife, because of the end of the Mishnah, the Ktanim, Medivrein, Lamadnu, Shesorfin, Truma, Tahire, Matmeya, Bepesach. How does this Mishnah come into Masechta Pesachim? Because the end of the Mishnah, we're going to learn the halacha that you're allowed to burn Truma that is impure with Truma that is pure, if both are chametz, before Pesach. And we're going to learn this from what Reb Chanina said. That's why this Mishnah comes in here to Pesachim, because it relates to the burning of chametz. What did the Kohanim do? Melisref es habasar shenitma bevlad hatuma, shenog absar kodesh zeh berishon l'tuma. There was the meat of holy meat that touched a rishon of tuma, v'havalei ihu sheni. So the meat became a sheni. V'loi nimnu melisarfoi im chamur mimenu. They did not prevent themselves. They did not abstain from burning it with meat that had a more stringent tuma, mimishanoga ba'av hatuma, from the meat that touched on Av HaTumah. There were two types of meat they would burn together. There was meat that touched on Av HaTumah. Let's remember, what is an Av HaTumah? An Av HaTumah is that which is the father. It generates Tumah. For example, meat that touched the sheretz. It touched one of the 8 dead shrotzim, say a mouse that died. And the meat of the carbon touched that mouse. A dead mouse fell into it. Or the mouse died when it was on the meat. So now that meat is Tamei, it touched on Av. And what's the status of that meat? A Rishon. It's a derivative of Tumah. But let's say there was another meat, and that meat was not a Rishon l'Tumah. That meat was Nitma bevlada Tumah. That meat touched a Rishon l'Tumah. So for example, this meat that's a Rishon because it touched a mouse, now touched other meat. That meat that touched the first meat is not called a Rishon. What is it called? A Sheni. It's a derivative of the derivative. It's a second level of a derivative Tumah. Now they have to burn both pieces of meat because they're both Tamei. They can't eat them. They're not allowed to eat it. And the halach is you have to burn them. So the Kohanim did not mind burning the two pieces of meat together. Even though when you throw them together in the fire, they're going to touch each other before they're burnt. And the tumah is going to increase, they didn't mind. The hoyil va'avzeh hakal l'sreifah, says Rashi, because since even the one is hakal means the one with a lighter tumah is also destined to be burned. They weren't afraid to contaminate it with a greater contamination than the way it was. Why? Because it's going to be burnt. If it wouldn't be burnt, they would be very careful not to increase the tumah. But since it's anyway going to be burnt, right? So who cares? They don't mind if it gets more tamei on the way to its being burnt. Oh, the Gemarah is going to say, "My toisvus tumah ika." Where is there an increase of tumah? It's not going to be increased because even in the beginning, it touched of Vlad HaTumah, it touched a Rishon. So even if it touches the meat on the way to be burned, it's also going to be touching of Lad HaTumah Rishon. So where is going to be the addition of Tumah? That's what the Gemarah is going to raise. What is Reb Chanina teaching us? What's the Chiddush? You're not adding any Tumah because it was initially a Sheni. And what does it do? It touches meat that was a Rishon. So what happens when a Sheni touches a Rishon? It becomes a Sheni again. You're not adding Tumah, right? When you touch a Rishon, you become a Sheni. Originally it was a Sheni, right? And what are you afraid of? That it's going to touch this meat, which was a Rishon. So what's going to happen? A Sheni touches a Rishon, so it's a Sheni. It's more of a Sheni. That's what the Gemarah is going to ask. This is what Rabbi Chanina taught. Came Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva added another vart. What did Rabbi Akiva say? That they often had oil. They had oil that was tameh. What made the oil, or actually oil that was pasul? What made the oil pasul? That a tvul yom, somebody who was tameh and went to the mikveh, but nightfall did not happen yet, and we learned that a tvul yom, somebody went to the mikveh, and nightfall did not happen. If he touches truma, the truma becomes what we call a shlishi, right? If I was tummy, let's say I touched the sheretz, then I go to the mikveh today, and I come out of the mikveh 7:58 a.m., I can't eat truma today. I have to wait till nightfall. Even if I'm a kohen, I'm allowed to eat truma, I have to wait till nightfall, Hariv Shemesh. If I touch truma during the day, the truma becomes a shlishi. So Rabbi Akiva said, and that truma has to be burnt, because you're not allowed to eat it. Truma that you're not allowed to eat has to be burnt. So Rabbi Akiva said that that he knows that the kohanim would take oil that was disqualified through a tful yom, and they would burn it. In what type of nair, and what type of lamp? They would use it as a candle, to fuel a candle, to fuel a lamp. But what type of menorah would they use? They would use a nair shenitma b'tmei meis, that became contaminated through a corpse. And nonetheless, they did it even though they're increasing the tumah of the oil. So Rashi explains, Milahadlik shemen shel truma. Rabbi Akiva says they took oil of truma. Shenifsal b'tvul yoim v'hu shlishi. This truma becomes a shlishi. The tvul yoim poiselis a truma min ha-Torah. Biblically, a tvul yoim disqualifies truma. Could be Yavamas Perek Ha'aral. We learned this out in Yavamas Perek Ha'aral, Mesachas Yavamas Daf Ayin Hey. Mi b'chol kodesh lo siga. It says that a woman who gives birth, she is tamei for 7 days if she has a male. She's tamei 2 weeks if she has a female. Then she goes to the mikveh. The blood that she sees afterwards is pure. It doesn't make her tamei. But she has to wait a long time until she brings a carbon. So the pasuk says during that period, b'chol kodesh lo siga. In all holiness, she should not touch. She should not touch holiness. V'yoyledis mishetavla l'soif yemei tumah ad yemaloyis yemei ta'ara shala tvulas yom aruchi. A woman who gives birth from when she went to the mikveh, from when she goes to the mikveh, the end of the yemei tumah, until her days of purity are up and she could bring a carbon, she's called a long tvul yom. Usually a tvul yom is only a few hours, till nightfall. But she is an exception. Her tvul yom status is very long. In the case of a female, she can only bring her atonement on day 81 since the birth. So her hariv shemesh is sunset of day 80. And what this means is that the pasuk tells us in the beginning of Parshas Tazria that if she has a male, if she has a baby boy, she's tamei for 7 days. The 8th day, she gives him a bris. And then for 33 days afterwards, if she sees blood, and she will see blood probably after birth, that blood is considered pure. She's not tamei. In fact, she could be with her husband. Although today we do it differently because we're not sure about the nature of blood. So therefore, after birth, as long as the woman is bleeding, she's not with her husband. It's considered need, and then she goes to the mikveh after she's pure. After the blood ceases, I mean. But in biblical times, 7 days she's tamei. She goes to the mikveh, and then she's good. But for 33 days, the blood is pure, but b'chol kodesh lo siga. Says she still can't touch kodesh. And she can't come to the Beis HaMikdash until the days of Tara are up. The same is true with a female, but it's double. she's tamei for 2 weeks, and then she has to wait 66 days. Altogether, it's 80 days. 14 and 66 is 80. 80 at night, she becomes Hariv Shemesh. The next day, she brings a carbon. In the case of a male, day 41, because it's 7 and 33. In the case of a female, day 81. From here, we learn that a Tvul Yoim is not allowed to touch Truma, because she has the status of a Tvul Yoim. She went to the Mikveh already, but the full purity is going to be only the day that she brings a carbon, and the night before is called Hariv Shemesh. That's the source biblically that a Tvul Yoim who touches Truma disqualifies the Truma. Says Rabbi Akiva, they took this oil and they placed this oil b'neir shenitma b'tmei meis, a neir that became contaminated through a tamei meis. Tmei meis avatumahu. Somebody who touches a mace is an avatuma. A person who touches a corpse is an avatuma. Umetame kelim. And he will contaminate any utensils that he touches. The Ksiv, the Pasuk says in Chukas, V'choil asher yigaboy hatame yitma. Whatever the tamei touches becomes tamei. Whether it's a person, or keli, or food, or drinks. V'hanefesh hanegas, titma ad ha'erev beparshas pareg abitumas meis. And the person who touches the person who touched the mace is tamei till the night. This is all in the parsha of Parah Aduma by Tumas Meis. Alma, Tmei Meis Metame Adam. We see clearly that somebody who touched a mace could be Metame another person. V'asoi hakosov av hatuma kesheretz unevela shemetamin Adam. The person defines a person who touches a mace like an avatuma, like a sheretz unevela, which can bring tumah to a person. Not like somebody who touches a sheretz who would only be able to contaminate foods and drinks. It says in Parshas Shmini by Shrotzim, Koil asher b'toicha yitma. Whatever is in the keli which touches sheretz becomes tameh. Mikol ha'oichel asher ya'achel asher yavei alav mayim yitma. All the food that can be eaten, which water came on it and made it susceptible to tumah, the food is going to become tameh when it's in the keli which touched the sheretz. V'chol mashka sheyishasa v'chol kli yitma. And all liquids that can be drank, in every keli it's going to be tameh. Alma loy mekabel tumah min ha-keli shekibel tumah min ha-sheretz ela oichel u'mashka bilvad v'loy adam v'kelim. From here we learn the great idea that what could be mekabel tumah from a keli that touched a sheretz? Only foods and drinks, not a person and kalim. This is the source. So here we have the tremendous source in Chumash for one of the great principles of Tumah and Tara. And it's a good idea to look inside to understand clearly what Rashi says. So please open up your Chumash, if you have these Chumashim, the blue art scroll, Hebrew Chumashim, page 314. Page 314, Parshas Shmini. Parshas Shmini, it's Leviticus chapter 11, Perikid Aleph. Go to page 314. And this will be a classic example of how the Chazal read the Psukim and see how to build the laws of Tumah and Tara. Okay, take a look at Pasuk Chavtes, verse 29. V'zelechem atamei b'sheretz ha-sheretz ala aretz. This is what's going to cause impurity, b'sheretz, a rodent, which is on the ground. Ha-choyled, which is a weasel, and a-achbar, which is a mouse. He goes through all the 8, right? The tzav, Lenny, you know what the tzav is? Huh? Is it called a turtle? Ha-naka, koyach, letah, choymet, tinshames. These are the 8. Different interpretations, whether it's a lizard or rats, moles, a lot of different ways of learning it, but there are 8 types. I touch it when it's dead, I'm tamei till the night. Okay. Now, anything that the sheretz falls on after it dies becomes tamei. Clayates, wooden utensils, beged, garments, or leather, a sack. Kol kli asher yaseh malacha b'hem. Any keli you do malacha with. If the sheretz falls on it, it becomes tamei. B'mayim yuva v'tamei ad ha'erev v'taher. It has to be brought into water, meaning mikveh, but you still have to wait till the night. Right here we see clearly mikveh is not enough. It doesn't just say bring it into water. It doesn't only say wait till the night. It says both. You have to bring it into water, meaning it has to go to the mikveh, but it's still tamei. What is it tamei? Till the night, it's tamei, because we know that if it touches truma, the truma is going to become tamei. This is called tvul yom. V'chol kli cheres asher yipol mehem el toichoi, kol asher b'soicha yitma v'oises yishbayru. What about an earthenware vessel? If the sheretz, the dead rodent, falls inside el toichoi, into the airspace, the cavity, anything that's inside the klei cheres becomes tamei. Why? Because a klei cheres, if the tumah goes into the airspace, the whole keli becomes tamei. And we know that a klei cheres doesn't work in a mikveh. You have to break it apart and then put it back together. That's the only way it could become cleansed. The klei cheres you can't put in the mikveh, right? It says clearly, sishbaru, you have to break it. So it says that whatever is in the keli becomes tamei. Why? Because the sheretz fell into the airspace. The keli becomes tamei. So whatever is inside the keli becomes tamei. But Pasuk Lamed Daled says not everything. Mikol ha'oichel asher ye'achel. All food that can be eaten, ashayav mayim yitma. Remember, food will not become tamei if it didn't become wet first, right? It has to be susceptible to tumah by water first, making it wet. V'chol mashka sheyishasa b'chol kli yitma. The food that is in the keli, or any liquid that you could drink with any vessel, will become tamei. Will become tamei. V'chol asher yipol alav, v'chol asher yipol menivlasam alav yitma, and anything that the nevela falls on it will become tamei. Tanur, kirayim, an oven, yutats, well, if it's earthenware, you have to smash it. What do we see from here? The sheretz fell into the airspace of the keli, right? The keli becomes tamei. And then he says whatever is inside the keli is tamei. Because if the keli is tamei, so whatever is inside the keli comes in contact with the tumah, because the keli. But then the pasuk says, foods and drinks. What do we see from here? That a keli that becomes tamei can only be metamei, foods and drinks, not a person or kelim. That's why it doesn't say whatever is in the keli. If I go into this klei cheres, I'm not going to become tamei. If I put a keli into this klei cheres, or I touch it with the klei cheres, I touch the klei cheres, doesn't become tamei. Because a keli that becomes tamei cannot transfer the tumah to another person and to more utensils. It can only transfer the tumah to what? To foods and to drinks. That's why we explain that's the difference between an avatuma and a rishon l'tumah. An avatuma will be metamei, a person, utensils, food, drinks. A rishon l'tumah will only be metamei, foods and drinks. This is the source. When the keli becomes tamei from the sheretz is an av, the keli is a rishon, and what can the keli be metamei? Only oichlin and mashkin. That's why the pasuk says, whatever is in the keli gets tamei, but it has to be foods or drinks. If there's a keli in the keli, it's not going to become tamei unless the sheretz went into that as well. But if the sheretz didn't go into it, just by contact with another keli, a keli will not become tamei. Because a keli can only become tamei from an avatuma, not from a rishon l'tumah, biblically speaking. Clear? This is the source for this major idea that a keli will not bring tumah to other kelim or to another person, only to oichlin and mashkin. In the language of halacha, a vlad hatumah cannot be metame kelim. Only an av hatumah could be metame kelim. That's why it says only oichlin and mashkin, not kelim. So again, the sheretz is an av. The keli that came in contact with the sheretz is a rishon, because it touched an av. That keli cannot be metame other kelim. Or it can't be metame another person. Can only be metame foods and drinks. Oichlin and mashkin will become a sheni as a result of touching the rishon. Okay? So if that's the case, let's now understand something. Right, biblically, a keli can't be lower than a rishon. A keli and a person could never be lower than a rishon, biblically speaking. A person and a utensil can only be a rishon. You can't get lower than that. What do we see? We see from here that the keli, which is a rishon, cannot be metame another keli. Why can't it be metame another keli? A keli can't become a sheni. It can only be a rishon. So if the keli touches the sheretz, it's tameh. But if the keli touches the keli that touched the sheretz, it's tahar. If a person touches a sheretz, he's tameh. But if a person touches a keli which touched the sheretz, he's tahar. But if my food touched a keli which touched the sheretz, oy oy oy, my food is now tameh in the next level, which is a sheni. Okay? So now, the oil became pasul through a tful yom. That oil of truma has to be burnt. So Rabbi Akiva said they would take that oil and put it in a neir. Shenitma b'tmei meis. They would put it in a lamp that became tameh through a tmei meis. So Rashi says, what is the meaning of this? The meaning of this is that the meaning of this is as follows. Rashi tells us that we learn usually, right, a person can't be less than a rishon. So if a person touches a tumah, he can't be metame another person. Why can't he be metame another person? Because if I touched an avatuma, I'm a rishon. If I'm a rishon, I can't make you a sheni. If I touch food, I can make the food a sheni. But I can't make you a sheni because I am a rishon. Yet we see in Parshas Chukaz that the soul, a person who touches a corpse, anyone who touches him becomes tameh till the night. That means when I touch a corpse, I'm an avatuma. I'm not a rishon l'tumah. Because if I would be a rishon, I wouldn't be metame another person. If I touch a corpse and you touch me, you're tameh till the night. What does that mean? That means I'm not a rishon, I'm an avatuma. And that's why I can give over tumah to a person and to kalim. So that's unique by mace, that even though I touch the mace, I'm not a rishon. If I touch the sheretz, I'm a rishon, and I can't make another person tameh or another keli tameh. But if I touch a mace, then what's my definition? I'm an avatuma. And therefore, if I touch you, you become a rishon l'tumah, and you go to the mikveh, and at night you're good to go. I have to wait 7 days and go through a whole cleansing process because I touched the mace. But you are only tameh till the night because you touched me and I touched the mace. I'm an av and you're a rishon. But that's unique by the mace, where the person becomes an avatuma when he touches the mace. But other tumas, when I touch the tumah, I'm not an avatuma, I'm a rishon l'tumah, and therefore if I touch you, you become nothing, because a person can't become a sheni, you remain pure, unless I touch food. That's what Rashi is explaining to us. That a tamei mace who touches a mace is an avatuma. He is going to be metame kalim, because he is like an avatuma, right? He is going to be metame another person. He's going to be metame kalim. That's the halacha. Unlike by a sheretz, where I touch a sheretz or I touch a nevela, where I'm not an avatuma, I'm a rishon l'tumah, and therefore I'm going to be metame only foods and drinks and not another person and kalim. That's what Rashi is explaining. So Rashi concludes, V'hai neir have a rishon. This neir is a rishon. Why is it a rishon? Because the neir touched a person who touched a mace. So the neir is a rishon. If it's a neir of klei cheres, it's a rishon. Va'achshav yeshkan toisvis tumah. So now the neir becomes more tameh. Shemitchila hayo shemen zeh shlishi. V'choizer v'nasa sheni ayidei haneir. D'hoyel v'yesh tumah alav. Loi chashinan le yamuta lohisav biyadayim. Says Rabbi Akiva, take a look at this oil. This oil was a shlishi, because a tful yom touched it. I take the oil and I put it in a lamp. This lamp touched the person who touched the mace. What is the lamp? The lamp is a rishon. I'm an avatuma, I touched the mace, I touched the lamp. The lamp is now a rishon. You take the oil that was a shlishi and you put it in the lamp, the oil becomes a sheni. You add it to the tumah. Says Rabbi Akiva, they didn't mind. Why? Because since they're lighting up this oil, they're putting a wick in the lamp. And the oil is going to be burnt up in a few hours. This oil is going to be depleted. It's being burnt. because you can't eat this oil, it's tameh. So they didn't care to add tumah on the first tumah, even though you're increasing the level of tumah. First it was a shlishi, and now it became a sheni by putting it into this neir. Shenitma b'tmei meis. Rabbi Akiva says he doesn't mind. So this is what Rabbi Akiva added to Rabbi Chanina, Zgan HaKoyan's testimony. He was speaking about meat, and Rabbi Akiva was speaking about oil. And from here the Mishnah continues and says that Rabbi Meir taught that from here we learn that you could burn impure truma with pure truma if it's chametz erev Pesach, even though in the one fire the pure truma is going to become tameh by contacting the impure truma. Nonetheless, it's fine. Why is it fine? Because it's going to be burnt. Even though there's a mitzvah that you have to guard truma, it shouldn't become tameh. So how can you allow the truma to become tameh? Reb Meir said from these two testimonies we can understand the halacha that I don't care if this truma becomes tameh. Why? Because it's about to be destroyed. And because it's about to be destroyed, I don't care if I don't protect it and I allow it to become tameh, because it's already in the process of being destroyed, and then it would be fine. This is Reb Meir's shitta, which of course Rabbi Yossi argues with him and says that's not true. You can't learn that from Reb Chanina and Reb Akiva. Okay. So now let's see the Gemarah analyzing the first two cases of the Mishnah, the story of Reb Chanina and the story of Reb Akiva. Okay. Now, let's recall. What did Reb Chanina tell us? What did Reb Chanina tell us? It's not as confusing as it appears. If you concentrate, you'll understand it. Reb Chanina said, I'm just going to use these props, it'll be easier, even these are tissue box and not meat. We're in the Beis HaMikdash, we're in a little shul here, right? A little Beis HaMikdash. So you have a piece of basar, a piece of meat. This is meat, just for illustrative purposes, that became tameh. How did it become tameh? It touched an avatuma. The mouse went into the Beis HaMikdash. The mouse saw a nice piece of meat, lamb chops, and it jumped into it, and it died. And now this piece of meat is tameh. What's the status? Which level of tumah? It's a rishon, because it touched a sheretz. A sheretz is an av. It's a rishon l'tumah. What do the kohanim have to do? They have to burn it. They have to take it to the fire and burn it. They're not allowed to eat this meat, even though usually they would be allowed to eat it. But you're not allowed to. Tameh dika, carbon meat, you're not allowed to eat. If it would be mundane food, I don't care if it's tameh. Anybody can eat it. If it's chulin, a regular piece of steak that gets tameh, you're fine. But a kodesh, karbanos that are tameh, you're not allowed to eat. It's something that you're not allowed to eat. You have to burn it. Fine. They're throwing it in, so they make a fire because they have to burn the meat. So once you make a fire, you put in all the tameh dika meat. So Reb Chanina said, what I saw was, well, it doesn't say he saw, but he says this was the tradition, he probably saw it, that they mixed into that fire another piece of meat. What happened to the other piece of meat? The other piece of meat was nitma bivlad hatumah. It became tameh through addition, meaning if this piece of meat became tameh because a mouse touched it, a dead mouse, not a living mouse. Living animals or insects or rodents will never give tumah. They have to be dead. Remember that. But it's dead, right? We saw in Shmini, it has to be with Monsey. Now this piece of meat touched this piece of meat. So this meat was a rishon because it touched an av. So what's this meat that touched it later? It's a sheni because it's not part of the original piece of meat. When a mouse touches a piece of meat, even the place that it didn't touch becomes tameh as long as it's a cohesive piece. But this was a separate piece. It may have even been a separate carbon. And it came in contact with the first one. So now this became a sheni. This is a rishon and this is a sheni. So Chanina said they threw everything into the fire together. And the fire together, they're touching. And if they're touching, you would think that what? You're adding tumah to the second piece of meat. They didn't care. That's what Reb Chanina told us. What were his words? They didn't mind burning meat that was nitma bivlad hatumah with basar that was nitma be'avatuma. Right? An avatuma is the father of tumah. Vlad hatumah is the child of tumah, the derivative of tumah. Says the Gemarah, Mikveh. I don't understand this. Let's see. Basar shenitma bevlad hatumah mayhava. Basar that became tameh through a vlad hatumah. What is its status? Sheni. Basar that became tameh through a contact with vlad hatumah, with a derivative of tumah. What is its status? Sheni. Vlad is rishon. Vlad is a child, a derivative. The one who touches the Rishon is a Sheni. Okay. When you burn it with meat that became tummy through an avatuma, my have, what is it going to become? Sheni. Sheni v'shenihu. It's a sheni and a sheni. My moisef le'tuma al tumasoi. Where did you increase any tuma? Gewaldige shaila. What's the big deal? You have a meat that's rishon. You have meat that's sheni. You're afraid that the sheni shouldn't become a rishon. Got it. You throw them both into the fire. You say, oi, the sheni touched a rishon. So what? It's already a sheni. Nothing happened more. Whatever it was, it retains. The status quo remains. It's not like the sheni touches, right, an avatuma. The sheni would touch an avatuma. Let's say you take this piece of meat and you touch it to a dead mouse. I got a problem. You added tuma. From sheni it became a rish. You didn't do that. You're saying they threw both meats into the fire together. Big deal? What's the problem? The first meat was a risha. The second meat was a sheni. By contacting the second meat with the first meat, you're just repeating what happened earlier. It became a sheni a second time. In other words, it stays the same thing. So what's the big deal? So what's Reb Chanina's chiddush? Like, why wouldn't they? They're not being moisef tumah. He said they're being moisef tumah. They're not being moisef tumah. They're just perpetuating the same tumah. What's the big deal? That's the question. When you burn this basar, that's a sheni. With basar, that's a rishon. My hava, what's the big deal? Sheni. It's now a sheni because it's touching a rishon. So sheni v'sheniyu. It's a sheni and it's again a sheni. You're a two and you're still a two. My moisef letum al tamasiyika. Where did you add tumah? He was first a sheni and now he's still a sheni. You weren't moisef tumah. You maintained the same level of tumah. You didn't decrease it, but you didn't increase it. So what's Reb Chanina's Gan HaKohanim saying? Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, Hacha bivlad uvlad askinan. You misunderstood the Mishnah. When the Mishnah said that the piece of meat was nitma bivlad hatumah, it doesn't mean with number one derivative of tumah. It means it was tameh with tumah that was derived from a derivative of tumah. Bivlad uvlad askinan. We're dealing with a child of the child. In other words, the meat touched a sheni, not a rishon. This meat didn't touch a rishon. It touched a sheni. An example would be, the mouse fell onto this meat, it died, so this meat became a rishon. This meat now touched another piece of meat, which became what? A sheni. That meat touched this piece of meat, which became a shlishi. That's called vlad uvlad atuma. Vlad atuma means a derivative of tuma. That's a rishon. Vlad uvlad atuma means a child of a child, the grandchild, meaning a derivative which came from a derived tuma. That's what the basar touched. When he said Vlad Atum, he didn't mean one generation, he meant two generations. The reason he called it Vlad is because basically anything after an Av he calls a Vlad, like the children. It could be a child, a grandchild, a great-grandchild, etc. He means anything that was not derived. In other words, Vlad Atumah includes everything that is a tulda, that is an offspring of an Av Atumah, as many generations as is. Right? Yeah. We have an expression in Chazal, Bnei bonim hareim kebonim. Grandchildren are like children, right? They could say tati to a zaydi, and you could say my dear child to a grandson. So the grandchild is also called a vlad. That's what he means. So the meat touched not a child, but a grandchild. Not a vlad, but a vlad uvlad. You have to go two generations. A vlad uvlad. In other words, the meat became a shlishi. If the meat became a shlishi, the havale shlishi. The kasavar, Reb Chanina says, shlishi muter la'asoyser sheni. When you're burning it, you can elevate the shlishi into a sheni. You may think you're not allowed, or you're adding tumah. When I take these two pieces of meat and throw them in the fire together, this meat was a rishon. This meat was a shlishi because it only touched a sheni. Now, when it comes in contact with the first piece of meat, what happens? It came in contact with a rishon. It becomes a sheni. I elevated the caliber of tumah from shlishi to sheni. You would think that's forbidden. You're not allowed to make it tameh, but because it's going to be burnt, it's not just I'm making it more tameh, it's on the way to be burned. So they did not care if it becomes a more stringent tumah on the way to be burnt. That's how we understood Rabbi Chanina's Gana Kohanim. Rabbi Yehuda answers the question. Which brings us now into a new problem. What's the new problem? The new problem is, and here we're going to see, and it's extremely important to understand how nuanced the Chazal saw every pasuk, and they understood that every word has to be interpreted in order to understand the full scope of halacha. Let's give a classic example. Go back to your Chumash, the same exact page 315, Parshas Shmini, page 315. We're going to learn one pasuk and see what they say here. Okay. Take a look, pasuk Lamed Zayin, mamash the top of the page, 315. Shmini, Perik Yud Aleph, pasuk Lamed Zayin, Leviticus 11:37. V'chi yipol min nivlosam al kol zera zeirua asher yizareya tahor hu. If the corpse of one of the 8 shratzim falls on a seed, it's tahor. Why is it tahor? It's tahor because it's not susceptible to tumah until something happens. Next pasuk, v'chiyutan mayim al zera. If water was poured on this edible seed, v'nafal min ivlasam alav, and then the corpse of the sheretz fell on it, tamei hu lachem. It becomes tamei for you. From here we learn a big yesod. No food will become tamei without hechsher. Hechsher means it has to first become susceptible to tumah. How? You have to have one of the water or one of the other 6 beverages in addition to water to fall on it after it became detached from the ground, because when it's attached, everything gets wet because of the rain. It can't grow without water. But after it's detached, it has to become wet. This is the source. Now, if the sheretz falls on it, it becomes tamei. If I have an apple and the apple never became wet since it was detached from the tree, or a grape, or a peach, or a cherry, even though these are human foods, they're edible foods, they will not become tamei without hechsher. Okay, granted. But let's look at the words. V'nafal min nivlasam alav, tamei hu lachem. The Chazal right away picked up on the nuance. And the nuance is, tamei hu. What if it would have just said, tamei? It's tamei. Who means he is tamei. That word is superfluous here. If water falls on the seed, tamei, it's tamei. What do I think tamei? The galaxies are tamei. The moon is tamei. We're talking about the seed. What's tamei? Who? He is tamei. He is tamei, and not what? We're talking about a seed. Why would you think anything else is tamei? It says if water falls on the seed, and then the corpse falls on the seed, tamei. It's tamei. Why does it have to say tamei? Who? He is tamei. And that means that the Torah is trying to exclude somebody else is not tamei. Who's not tamei? Obviously somebody else is not tamei. If it didn't fall on you, you're not tamei. Why would you be tamei? We're talking about a seed. Right? So tamei who means he is tamei. Somebody else is not tamei. Who is this somebody else who would become tamei and is not tamei? This is the context. This has to be interpreted. So let's see how they understood this. Vaha, frag the Gemarah, vaha, we have a principle that biblically, ein oichel metame oichel. Food, biblically, could never contaminate other food. The Tanya, we have a brayso, yochel ye oichel metame oichel. You would think food could bring tumah to other food. Talmud Loima, the pasuk says, "V'chiyutan mayim al zera v'nafal min nivlasam alav tamei hu tamei ve'ein oisek hayoytze by tamei." He is tamei, but he can't reproduce the tumah. He tamei hu, he himself is tamei, but he can't replicate it. That's why it says hu. That's the chiddush of who? Oh, so minat Torah, 1 second, food can't be metame other food. So when we spoke, food touches food, which touched food, no, minat Torah, nothing. What could happen minat Torah? Food could be metame liquid. And liquid could be metame food. But food can't be metame other food. It doesn't transfer the tumah. That's why it says, tamehu. The seed, he is tameh. What do you mean he? Who's not? Who's not? The one who touches him. Even if the food is touching a mace, we're going to call it a rishain. Why? Because it can't be metame other food. In that sense, yeah. So as a result of that, we have here a new principle. Oichel is not metame oichel. And by the way, as we will see later on Daf Yud Ches, mashke, biblically, is not metame mashke. Liquid will not transfer tumah to liquid. Food will not transfer tumah to food. Because, just like the Torah teaches us here, that oichel doesn't replicate the tumah with other oichel, the same is true with mashke. But food could be metame liquids, and liquids could be metame food. That's why there is a shlishi, but only if it alternates between food and liquids. And that's what we understand is the who. Who tameh ve'ein oiseh kayotze by tameh. He is tameh, the zera is tameh. What's he? He's tameh. Only he's tameh. What do we mean he's tameh? Another seed that touches him will not become tameh. He can't replicate that tumah. If that's the case, the whole mission doesn't make sense. Why? Because what's your problem? There's meat. The meat is a shlishi. The meat touched a meat that's a rishon. You're afraid that the meat became a sheni, but meat and meat is oichel and oichel. Oichel can't be metame, other oichel on a biblical level. So what's the problem? But 1 second. What type of seed are we talking about here? We're talking about a regular seed, regular food. Would this be true by karbonos too? That's the question. Hanichela abaya. There would not be a question according to Abaya, the Amar he holds lo yishanu ela b'chulin. This principle is only true by chulin, by mundane, profane food. Aval b'truma v'kachim oiseh kayotze bo. But by truma and kachim, food can replicate the tumah into the next food. Food that's tameh can become a copy. You know how DNA replicates itself? That's like oiseh kayotze bo, right? It replicates itself. If the food touches other food, the second food becomes a copy of the first food in the sense that it becomes tameh. That's only by truma and kachim. So according to Abaya, that would work. Abaya holds that this is only by regular food, chulin. But by truma and kachim, he derives from a special pasuk in Chagai, the prophet Chagai, that truma and kachim is different. Over there, food can replicate the tumah. It could make a copy of itself. When it touches food that's tameh, that food becomes tameh. Even according to Reb Ada, the son of Av, in the name of Rava, Nami, it also works. The Amar, he holds, Lo yishanu ela chulin u'truma, aval b'kachim oiseh kayotze ben. He holds that the limitation of food not being metame other food is by regular food and even truma, but not karbonos. Karbonos are so sensitive that even if you touch another food that's tameh, you become tameh. And our Mishnah is talking about karbonos. So Reb Chanina would make sense that if I had meat that was a shlishi, and the meat touched meat that was a rishon, it becomes a sheni. Why? Because it's karbonos. Abaya holds that truma and karbonos, both the food could make other food tameh. Reb Ada bar Rav, in the name of Rav, says not truma but karbonos. Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem. Here is my problem. L'Ravin, mishmei de Rav. But Ravin, who quotes Rav differently, the Amra who says, Mikra mole dibur akosov. The Torah is giving us a full verse, meaning that the pasuk is communicating a whole halacha, and that is lo yishna chulin, lo yishna truma, lo yishna kachim. When the Torah says that food can't be metame other food, it doesn't exclude anything. Mikra mole dibur akosov. It's a wholesome pasuk that the Torah says. No food can be metame other food. I don't care if it's mundane. I don't care if it's truma. I don't care if it's kachim. If that's the case, my ikela meimar, How will Ravina explain our Mishnah? Our Mishnah clearly says that when meat touches meat, the tumah can increase. But he said that biblically, oichel cannot be metame oichel. If oichel can be metame oichel, who cares if you throw it into the fire? Even if you don't throw it into the fire, if meat touches meat that's tameh, it doesn't make it more tameh. So the whole idea of Reb Chanina wouldn't make sense. So we have three opinions. Abaye says truma and kachim are excluded over there. Oichel metame oichel. Reb Ada Barav in the name of Rava says truma no, but karbonis yeah. But Ravin in the name of Rava says no oichel is metame oichel. If no oichel is metame oichel, our Mishnah can't make sense. Yeah, the word who says tamei who. What? It's tamei. Why? It's tamei. In other words, it can't be copied. The tumah can't be copied. Who tamei? The question is, does that include only chulin, or also truma, or also kach? So as the Gemarah is going to explain later, there's a pasuk in Chagai that Abaye used, and the first opinion of Rava used to show that truma and kachim were different. Ravin in the name of Rava disagrees. This will be a discussion later. A famous pasuk in Chagai, where Chagai, the prophet in the beginning of the second temple, is challenged to ask all the kohanim if they know the halachas of tumah. And he goes through different foods from where it might seem that food stuff can be mitame other food stuff when it comes to truma or karbonis. That's the debate and the discussion that's going to be explored later. Answers the Gemarah Hachabamaya Skinon. Our Mishnah is talking about the Ika Mashkin Bahadi Basar. We're missing one detail. That original meat that touched the achbar, that touched the mouse, had some liquid on it. You know that meat can have liquid on it. There could be blood on it. There could be other liquid on it. There could be water. They maybe rinsed the meat, so there was water on it. Now the dead mouse fell on the basar, right? It made the basar a rishon. It also made the mayim a rishon. The liquid that was on it, it made a rishon. The liquid was a rishon. The ikamashkin ba'de basar, there was liquid with the original meat. The kametame machmas mashkin. So the second meat is becoming tameh from the liquid, not from the oichel. Now it makes sense. So you have the first piece of meat. It touched the sheretz, right? It touched the sheretz. But on the meat there was mashkin, there was liquid. So the liquid also became a rishon l'tumah. Now the second meat, which was a shlishi, touches the first one, right? It doesn't only touch the basar, it touches also the mashkin on the basar. Liquid could be metame oichel. Oichel can't be metame oichel, but mashkin could be metame oichel. Now you threw them both into the fire. Before the fire manages to dry the mashkin, which it's going to do, the mashkin touched the second basar. So the second basar became a sheni. By touching the mashke that was a rishon. The mashke touched the sheretz, together with the first basar. So the mashke and the first basar is a rishon. This basar is a shlishi. When this basar touches this basar, nothing happens. Because ein oichel metame oichel. But this basar also touched the mashkin on the basar. So it became a sheni. So it's moisef tumah. So Reb Chanina says they didn't mind it because they were burning it. That answers the question, according to all opinions, because if there was mashkin, it's fine. The Ika Mashkin Bahad the Basar. The Kametame Machmas Mashkin. The Basar that was a Shlishi became Tameh as a result of its contact with the liquid which it touched when they were burnt together. Because Mashke could be Metame Oichel. So therefore the Basar that was a Shlishi became a Sheni. Frag the Gemarah Ihachi, if that's the case, Hayim HaBasar Shenitma Ba'avatuma, Im HaBasar Mashkin Mi Ba'ilei. The language of the Mishnah is flawed. Take a look at the language of the Mishnah. What did Reb Chanina say? Miyameim shel koyanim. All the days of the koyanim, they didn't stop burning basar shenitma bevlad hatoma im basar shenitma ba'avatoma. That's not what he should have said. There's no problem of burning basar shenitma bevlad hatoma if basar shenitma ba'avatoma. They should have added one word. They didn't stop burning basar shenitma ba'avatoma in basar umashkin shenitma ba'avatuma. They didn't stop burning the basar shenitma bevladatuma with basar umashkin shenitma ba'avatuma. The problem is the mashkin, not the basar. I understand the mashkin is not in a vacuum, it's on the basar. But the main thing is the mashkin. Because the basar is not metame basar. Only mashkin is metame basar, according to Rabbi in the name of Rava. That's not what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says the problem was meat touched meat, not meat touched meat and liquid. This means that what made the tumah? The basar. So we're back to our question. We learned that oichel cannot copy its tumah into another oichel. So what would be the issue?
Maybe that's what Rabbi brought down the case.
Maybe that's where Rabbi Akiva brought down the case of liquid. Fine. That's fine. But the question is, according to that opinion, how would they make sense of Reb Chanina? In other words, Reb Chanina is testifying against this third opinion. The third opinion in the name of Rava should retract and say, you know what? Obviously, the Koyanim disagreed with us. Reb Chanina disagreed with us because we see that he holds that basar could be metame basar. So this is a blatant contradiction where you would have to say that in the Beis HaMikdash they followed the principle that what? That oichel could be metame oichel. You get it? In the Beis HaMikdash we have a blatant contradiction to this principle that ain't oichel metame oichel. At least by karbonis it's clear that oichel is metame oichel. And that's why he says when they put it into the fire they didn't mind if you're moisef tumah. But it's clearly moisef tumah. It's just he didn't mind because it was in the fire. I don't care if it's in the fire. So the Gemara answers, Elo, Nihi de'ein oichel metame oichel b'dayraisa midirabonon miyu metame. We have to actually introduce a whole new idea. You're right, biblically there's no issue. The entire issue is rabbinic. Rabbi Chanina lived at the end of the second Beis HaMikdash. It was already after the rabbinic institutions of Tumah and Tara. They are the ones who said that food could be metame other food. So Rabbi Chanina was talking about a rabbinic problem. You're right, biblically I don't care if the basar touches the other basar. It won't be moisef tumah. You know why? Because ein oichel metame oichel. But rabbinically oichel is metame oichel. So when this basar touches this basar, it becomes a sheni, not min ha-Torah, but midirabanan. This basar was a shlishi, because it touched a sheni, which touched a rishon, which touched an af. But now it touches meat that's a rishon. When it touches meat that's a rishon, it becomes a sheni, not min ha-Torah. Min ha-Torah ein oichel metame oichel. But midirabanan, oichel does bring tumah to other oichel. And therefore you would think you're not allowed to do it because it's rabbinically adding tumah. And even rabbinically, you're not allowed to add tumah. Says Reb Chanina, you're right. But since they were burning it, I don't care. They didn't care to add tumah while it was being destroyed and exterminated in the flames. Okay, granted. If you take a hold that karbonos oichel metame oichel min ha-Torah like Abaya or Rab Ada, then I don't have a problem because you could say by karbonos it is biblical. But according to the third opinion, Rab Vin in the name of Rava, that oichel is never metame oichel, not even karbonos. The only way we can explain this Mishnah is that he was worried about a rabbinic addition in impurity. Not min ha-Torah, but only midirabanan. Because min ha-Torah ain't oichel, metame oichel, and we can't say there was a liquid here because the Mishnah doesn't mention liquid. The Mishnah mentions only meat contacting other meat. Fine. Now comes the second stanza, Rabbi Akiva. What does Rabbi Akiva speak about? Oil. That they took the oil that was nifsal b'tful yoim and they put it in a lamp. Hoysif Rabbi Akiva, mimein shel koyanim lo'nimnu melahadlik. The koyanim didn't mind to take oil that was puzzled through a tful yoim and burn it in a lamp that was nitma b'tmei mace. It touched the person who touched the mace. Mikveh frag the Gemarah. Let's see. Shemen shenifsal b'tful yoim mai hava. Shemen, oil, that became disqualified through a tful yoim, what's its status? Let's remember, somebody who was tummy, if I touched a dead sheretz, I went to the mikveh, I came up from the mikveh, I'm a tful yoim. If I touch regular food chulin, it's good. I'm tired, went to the mikveh. If I touch truma, the truma becomes a shlishi. A shlishi. Not a sheni, but a shlishi. So this oil that the Tful Yom touched is a shlishi. Fine. You put it into a lamp that touched a person who touched a mace. So what happens to the shemen? The shemen becomes now a sheni. Let's understand. I touched a mace. I'm an avatuma. I touched a mace, I'm an avatuma. I touch a keli, I touch a lamp of earthenware, and I make it a rishon. You put oil into that lamp, the oil becomes a sheni. So they took oil that was a shlishi, and they burnt it in a lamp, and that lamp gave it the status of sheni, because the lamp was a rishon, because the lamp touched me, and I was an av, because I touched a mace. So Rabbi Akiva says, they didn't mind elevating the tumah of the oil, because it was being destroyed, it was being burnt, it was being consumed in the flame. Frag the Gemarah, Maika mashmalon. What's the chiddush? Shlishi muter la'asosei sheni. That a shlishi could become a sheni. Hainu hach. That's exactly what Rabbi Chanina said. So why does the Mishnah say, Hoisif Rabbi Akiva? Hainu hach. That's what Rabbi Chanina said. The Mishnah says, Hoisif Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva added. What's the addition? He's repeating the same thing in a different scenario. The Mishnah says a case of Rabbi Chanina. Then the Mishnah says, Hoisif Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva added something. When you say added, it means you're adding something. You're not just repeating what I said. That's what Hoisif means. Rabbi Akiva just repeated the idea of Rabbi Chanina in a different scenario. What was Rabbi Chanina's case? Exactly the same case. You had basar that touched an av, so the basar was a rishon. You had basar that was a shlishi. The basar touches the first basar, so the shlishi becomes a sheni. And Rabbi Chanina said, since it's being burnt, it's good. Comes Rabbi Akiva and adds something. What does he add? Exactly the same thing. You had shemen that was a shlishi. You put it in a lamp that was a rishon. The shemen now becomes a sheni, but because it's being burnt, I don't mind. So where's the hoisef? Hainu hach. He says exactly what the first opinion said. He's just repeating it in a different scenario. Huh? You're right. The difference between burning carbonus and burning oil that's tamei is, when you burn truma that's tamei, you're allowed to have anah from the burning. Meaning you could burn it in a lamp and enjoy the light and the heat. When you burn carbonus that become tamei, right? You're not allowed to have anah from it. You just have to burn it. That's the difference. That's why by the oil, they could put it in a neir and enjoy the tamei oil, because that's the halacha. We learn it out from the psukim that even truma that's tamei, the kohen could still enjoy it. It's still something that he can enjoy. How can he enjoy it? Not by eating it, but by using it for a bonfire or for a stove or for a menorah and so forth, right? But the idea of adding tumah is exactly the same. In the first case, you made a shlishi a sheni when you were destroying it. In the second case, you made a shlishi a sheni when you're destroying it. So what's the addition of Rabbi Akiva over Rabbi Chanina? Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda answered. Rabbi Yehuda was also the one who answered the first case that it was a shlishi by Rabbi Chanina. Same Rabbi Yehuda says, Hacha b'neir shal matches askinon. We assume the whole time that this is a lamp of earthenware. No, it's a metal lamp. It's not a menorah made of earthenware pottery. It's a neir shal matches. It's a metal lamp. Any metal. Say a silver menorah, a gold menorah, it's metal. The rachma, it's a whole different situation. And here we come across a fascinating halacha, and the halacha is as follows. And I want you to understand this halacha very well, and you'll see again how the Chazal was so sensitive to nuance. Take a look at the beginning of Parshas Chukas, where we have the halachas of Tumas Meis. Parshas Chukas in the beginning. Please turn to page 438. This is Numbers 19, say Parshas Chukas Perek Yutes. Page 438. Please take a look. Pasuk Tez Zayin, okay? Let's read. V'choil asher yiga al pnei hasada. Anyone who touches on the face of a field, meaning on the field I touch. What do I touch? Listen. Bachalal cherev, oy bemeis, oy be'etzem adam, oy bekever, yitma shivas yamim. What did I touch? Chalal cherev. What's chalal cherev? Anybody knows? Somebody, a victim of a sword. Or bemeis, or I touch a dead man, a dead person. Oy be'etzem adam, I touch a bone of a person. Oy bekever, I touch a grave of a person. Yitma shivas yamim. I become tameh for 7 days. Because I touched them. Now the question is like this. What if the person didn't die by a sword? What if the person died naturally? What if the person died from dehydration? What if the person just collapsed and had a heart attack? Well, it says right afterwards, b'meis, right? B'meis. So I'd say b'chalal cherev, if you touch a mace, any dead person, whether he was killed, whether he died, whether he was killed through a sword, and what if he was killed through an arrow? And what if he was killed through a bullet? And what if he was killed not through a sword? What if he was killed through a rock? And what if he was killed through an animal, chas v'shalom? I mean, there's so many different ways for a person to die. Why b'chalal cherev? Is the pasuk saying only a sword? If somebody was not killed by a sword, they're not tameh. You said oy b'meis, any mace. Mace is a dead corpse. So what's this chalal cherev? If it wouldn't say cherev, you could say maybe somebody who was slain and somebody who died naturally. They're both tameh. But what's the idea of slain through a sword? And what if it wasn't a sword? What if it was a slingshot? What if he was killed in war in different ways? People were killed many ways, also by sword. Where does cherev come in here? Are we discussing now how to engage in battle? We're discussing the idea that there's a corpse that you touched. So the Chazal, when they saw such a word, if you would write it, you wouldn't put in cherev. Because if you're putting in cherev, then give me another 200 scenarios. You could say b'chalal even. You could say a halal from hunger. You could say a halal from thirst. You could say a halal from illness, from disease. From an aneurysm, from a heart attack, from a stroke. What's the halal cherev? It's true, people died through sword, especially in the ancient times. This was the F-16 of the time. I got it. But how does it come in here? So from here, the sages learned a very important lesson. That the halacha of Matos-Maasei is not only if you touch the corpse, also if you touch the sword. That's the point. If you touch the sword, you have the same tumah like if you touch the corpse. That means, if there's a sword that touched the corpse, by touching the sword, it's like I'm touching the corpse. In other words, a keli of matches, a keli of metal, that touches a corpse, assumes the status of the corpse. It's called avi avois hatoma. That's a unique chiddush. You don't have that in tumah usually. Something touches the source and it assumes the same level of the source. So when I'm touching the sword, it's like I'm touching the mace himself. So if I'm a person and I'm touching the sword, I become an av hatuma myself, like I touched the mace. And now, if I touch another person, I'm not a rishon, I'm an av. So if I touch another person, that person is a rishon. This is a unique chiddush from that word, bachalal cherev. The sword has the same status like the victim. Unique. If this is the case, comes Rabbi Akiva and says, now you'll understand the chiddush. Now this halacha is not true with earthenware vessels. Only with matches, with metal vessels. Like a sword. It has to be like a sword. Metal vessels. So this is a lamp of metal. The Rachmana Amma, the Torah says, Bachalal cherev. What do we learn from Bachalal cherev? Cherev harehu kechalal. The sword has the same status like the corpse, like the mace. B'meila v'havile avatuma. So the neir shel matches is not a rishon, it's an avatuma. Huh? A good question. He's saying it should be avi avois. Look in the Mishnah, look in the words of the Mishnah. Neir shenitma. Neir shenitma. Bitmai mace. The Neir didn't touch the mace. If the Neir would touch the mace, it would be avi avois. The Neir touched the person who touched the mace. we learn that the clay matchis assumes the status of the tumah of that which it touched. If it touches the mace itself, it's aviyah voice. If it touches the person who touches the mace, it becomes like the person. That's the uniqueness here. Whatever the metal vessel touches, it assumes the status of what it touched. If it touched the mace, it's the highest level. If it touches a person who touched the mace, it's an avatuma, just like the person. And actually, this is learned. This detail is learned from this week's Parsha, Parshas Matos. You learn this week's Parsha. It says that the Jews went to war against Midian, right? And God says that whoever, the Lashon is, this week's Parsha, whoever killed, Kol Hoirig, what's the expression? Parshas Matos, the Lashon is, Kol Hoirig Nefesh, whoever kills anybody, or Kol Neigeya B'chol, whoever touches the corpse. This is our Parsha, Perik Lamed Aleph Pasuk Yitesim Bamidbar. Tischato, you have to clean yourself, right? You have to clean yourself. And he says, V'chibastem b'gdeichem b'yoyim hashvi. You have to also clean your garments, your begadim. You have to clean your garments, your begadim. So you have two things. You have a keli which touches a mace, is aviyah v'isatuma. A keli that touches a person who touched the mace is an avatuma. That's why it says that they had to clean their begadim with the para aduma heifer, the ashes and the water, the red heifer, the ashes and the water, on the third day and on the seventh day. Why the begadim? Why my clothes? Why my clothes? The person touched the mace, he's an avatuma. But the question is, why do the begadim need this cleansing? The begadim didn't touch a mace, right? The answer is, because the begadim touched me. And the keli that touches a person has the same status like the person. So if the person is an avatuma, the kelim also have an avatuma. That's why it says, V'chibasta b'gdeichem b'yoyim hashvi, the begadim also need tumah 7 days, like an avatuma, because they touched them. You're saying the begadim were not metal. The begadim were whatever the begadim were. Okay, we'll address that in a moment. Very good question. You're asking a very good question. What does Rabbi Yehuda need to make a whole pilpul with metal? Rabbi Akiva is anyway saying a simple chiddush, because Rabbi Chanina, it's only an increase in tumah midirabanan. And according to Rabbi Akiva, it's an increase in tumah midiraisa. Why? Because the oil that's a shlishi is a diraisa, and it becomes a sheni midiraisa because it touched a neir. So it's a gewaldige chiddush, right? You know, I know you're asking a good question, because Tosfos asks it. The last Tosfos on the page. Right? My kamashmal on the shlishi mutter la soiser sheni hainuach lamanda amar ein oichel metame oichel medoiraisa loy parich. If you hold oichel can never be metame oichel medoiraisa, there's no question. The lididei hoisiv the mutter lasas av sheni doiraisa. Rabbi Akiva is telling you that you can add a biblical tumah, not only a rabbinic tumah. That's a big chiddush. But according to the first two opinions, that oichel is metame oichel by karbonis midoiraisa. So Reb Chanin already said that it's moisif tumah minat Torah, and still you don't care. Rabbi Akiva is not saying a chiddush. So Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Akiva is saying a big chiddush. Why? Because the neir shel matchis touched the person who touched the tameh, a mace. So if I touch the mace, I'm an avatuma. Now I touch a lamp of matchis of metal, it becomes an avatuma. Now you put oil into it, the oil becomes a rishon. What was this oil first? It was a shlishi, and it went up to rishon. That's a chiddush on Reb Chanina. Reb Chanina made from a shlishi a sheni. Rabbi Akiva made from a shlishi a rishon. That's hoisif Rabbi Akiva. He literally adds one level of tumah and says it's still fine. Why? Because you're burning it. You're not only allowed to bring up the tumah one level, you could bring up the tumah 2 levels. Make it more serious tumah 2 levels up. Why? More tumah on 2 levels higher. 2 levels higher tumah of a higher tumah. Why? Because it's being burnt. Got it? Let's take a look. B'nei shel matchis askina. The Rachman Amar B'Chalal Cherev Areu Kecholol. V'havile avatuma. The neir is an avatuma. V'kasavar shlishi mutar l'asosei rishon. Rabbi Akiva holds the shlishi can become a rishon. That's his addition to Reb Chanina. Reb Chanina taught me that a shlishi could become a sheni when it's being burnt. Rabbi Akiva teaches me a shlishi can become a rishon. For this we have to say that he's talking about a ner shel matches, a metal lamp, and hence it becomes a rishon because it touched somebody who was tamei through a mace, because the clay matches assumes the status of the one that he is, the status of the one that he touches. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow and answer also the question.
You said the sword becomes an avatuma.
The sword that touches the mace becomes avia voisatoma. When I touch the sword, I become an av, just like I touch the mace. But what if the sword touches me and I touch the mace, or any metal keli? It becomes like me.
The question I have is somebody.
If somebody is killed with a bow and arrow, right? So that person is not tamei because he didn't touch the mace and he didn't touch the arrow. But if he goes over to the mace and he touches the arrow, the metal arrow, then he would become. No, the person would become an avatuma like he touched the mace, even though he didn't touch the mace itself. Chalal cherev hareu kecholol. Cherev hareu kecholol. The mace is avia voice. The reason that the keli is called avia voice means that when he gives tumah to the person is still an av. That means the person could be metami another person. When we say av, it's really a metaphor. Av means you could be metami adam v'kelim. Rishon means you could be metami eichlon amashkin. Yeah, an av could give over to another adam. If the keli would only be an avatuma by touching the mace, so if I touch the keli, the cherev, I'm a rishon. I can be metami another person, right? But the Torah says clearly in Chukas, hanefesh hanoigas, if you touch a person who touched a mace or touched a cherev, you're tamei. That means the person is not a rishon, the person is an av. That's the chiddush of mace. That the person who touches the mace or the cholol cherev, the cherev becomes an av. In other words, he could be metame another person or kalim. So when I touch the neir becomes a rishon. But if I wouldn't be called an av and I would touch the neir, it would be tar. Why? Because it would be a sheni, and a keli can't be a sheni. No. The chiddush of cherev hareu kecholol is only cherev. A person himself who touches a mace can't be a via voice. He can be an av. That says clearly in Chumash. A person who touches a mace could not be a via voice. He could be an av. It doesn't say the person becomes the cholol. The cherev becomes like the cholol. The klei matches becomes like the cholol. So a keli who touches a mace becomes a via voice atuma. Or a keli who touches a person who touches a mace becomes an avatuma. Like in our case. The neir touched the person, the neir becomes an avatuma.
You see the tumah can travel without touch. Go inside the house.
Tumas mace can travel in the house, an oil, yeah. You're right. You're right. And you're tamei shivas yamin, yeah. You want to know why not only a cherev, why other matches? Okay, well, blina de margim menasudresin. Et gefragt agit, the Toisus frektas. As the shaila is nor like the erste zwei shittas, that it's been a Torah. Like the third shitta, taka the Gemarah is clear. Rabbi Akiva, we know Rabbi Akiva's chiddush. Because it's a chiddush of Dairaisa. He went to Dairaisa. But like the first two shittas, Rabbi Chanina was already Moisef Tumah Dairaisa. So the question is, what's Rabbi Akiva's Isafa? Shlishi to Sheni? We already learned from Rabbi Chanina. The answer is Shlishi tradition. You want to know why would Rabbi Akiva care from what's the chiddush from shlishi to tradition? The sib is anyway the same. Who cares if you moisef more? What's the chiluk? What's the hisafa? Zilbasa time. Mele ben rabbanon to minat Torah. You're saying it's a new vort. It's a new type of tumah. Eicha git shaila. Blina de vetreden. בסדר? ותסדר שמוס.
Together the Shul and can meet up na viele Schraf.
That's what we try. That's what we're trying to do.
Asach nila da can meet up na Ram so.
That's what we're trying to do, yeah.
Dit is een welt da auch niet nach mamash. Jetzt ist einmal der מוריד את זה כמעט מילה במילה. שמנו את כל אחד היה שוב אותו. אם חשבתי למה לא מפרסמים לפני שמתחילים מבחנים גם כאן נפרד. מאוד מפחיד בעצם.
כן, אני יודע.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.